All right, everyone, welcome on in to another episode of the Lowdown Sports Show. This show is brought to you by Fanatics and Public, where you can get some merchandise and support this show. Welcome on in. I'm your host, Drew,
And I'm BJ.
and we are once again here to get the lowdown on all things basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's been about a month or so almost
Yeah,
since you've
just
seen us,
about almost. Yeah,
heard us, all the above.
three,
Uh,
three, three, 4 weeks. I guess that would be close to a month.
but we are back. And in some ways we are better. You did notice the new sponsorship at the opening of the show. I mean, you guys have always known about Public and Fanatics, but we're no longer with DraftKings due to the Basketball Podcast Network going under. So no more Basketball Podcast Network. A couple of its networks within like the trifecta of what they had. They had basketball, football, and hockey. Only
Mhm.
hockey made it through. So
Yeah,
Basketball Podcast Network is no more. Therefore, DraftKings is no more for us. You won't hear that anymore. But we still got our friends at T Public and Fanatics that are still a part of everything that we're doing here and support this show. So uh, we'll give you some more information on T Public and Fanatics, more so in the middle of the show, like we used to do for DraftKings, instead of finishing off with reminders. So expect to hear that a bit earlier, and the close will be a bit different than normal. But just giving y'all a heads up on what's been happening with us, so no more. The intro won't be the same anymore. It'll kind
yeah,
of more so the same sound like this. Now introducing that it's no, it's brought to you by T Public and Fanatics. So that's what you get used to hearing now
yeah.
for the rest of these lowdown
We get
shows
to
or for the
peek
foreseeable
behind the
future.
curtain a little bit.
Right. Yes, indeed. But we are back. Definitely are better. Got some time to get things together here and figure out the plan. And the direction for the rest of the season. Midway
And
through, we don't expect a curveball like this, so
yeah,
gotta
yeah, and,
adjust
and we
on the
also
fly.
had quite a bit of we've been some busy bees, Drew. You and I.
Yeah.
So I know we'll definitely be talking a little bit about that. But I mean, we through no fault of anybody but ourselves with the lives we live and the things that we're responsible for. But that's something that we promise won't happen again. Is that long of a break in between episodes?
Yeah. If so, I mean, and you think about it, you think we were just like on vacation this whole time, guys. We
No,
weren't. We were
no,
doing stuff. I mean, just
no.
loaded every day. No
Yeah,
time to squeak in a podcast for everybody. So,
yeah. It
I
looks like you,
mean,
you even got a new location there. I mean, you moving up in the world.
it's a pretty nice house, right?
Yeah, it's a really nice house.
Pretty nice. Don't let it fool you and think this is my bag. Uh, but yeah, we're back and ready to get rocking, ladies and gentlemen. Got a lot to talk about. This will be a jam-packed episode. A lot's been going on. We're not going to talk about everything, but a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on very recently is the center of the topics today. WNBA Draft happened at the beginning of this week.
Yep.
New faces and new places out there getting to try the pro experience as collegiate players venture on into the W and NBA playing action in full swing. The first round of it is already through. We know who the 7 seeds are, and we're gonna pretty soon find out who those 8 seeds are. It's been
Yeah. Tomorrow
been
night.
rather interesting games so far, to say the least. And we're gonna dig into the things in and around those on the NBA side of things. Of course, we got BJ's best on tap. What's on Drew's mind,
What's
and
on?
that illustrious, famous game of With It or Quit It that everybody loves so much.
That's right. It's back. We're got a jam-packed episode, and Drew, I know you normally ask. I know we've done things a little bit differently, but I will go ahead and tell you, I'm ready whenever you're ready to get into it
Hmm.
all.
Well, I'm ready to go. I'm
Let's do it then.
SpongeBob over here.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Let's get it. So, first and foremost, we want to talk NBA, and we're kind of centered around the play in right now. Things started off
Mhm.
on the west side of things. We had a couple of matchups fighting for the 7 seed. We had Lakers and Timberwolves, and BJ the East matchup, Heat and Hawks.
Yeah, you talk about a surprise with
And
Atlanta.
yeah, because in the past, the Miami Heat have always dominated the Atlanta Hawks, and Trae Young always has a rough time against Miami, and that was not the case this time around as they secure a 7 seed and send Miami to fight for their lives.
Drew, I think this may be the first instance in NBA history where a team that won its division is going to finish in the lower in the playoff standings than a team in its own division.
Mm.
Because the Heat one had the better record in the regular season than the Hawks did, and won the division as a result. But because both were in the play-in tournament and the 7-8, with Atlanta winning that game, they'll be the 7. Even if the Heat win their playing game tomorrow night, which we'll talk more about here in a second, they can't be any better than 8. So this might be a first in NBA history. We've had quite a few firsts in NBA history here this week.
Well, we're probably going to tack on another first with that because if Miami loses, will they be the first one that won their division that didn't make the playoffs?
Probably, yeah.
More than likely, yeah. Because
I would think that would be the
everybody else,
case.
back in the day before playing, it would pretty much be a shoe-in, like your spot is locked. You don't get to lose it. So
Yeah.
they're going to be the first of its kind, and it's crazy because this team was in the finals just a few years ago.
I was about to say, do you really think they're going to lose to the Bulls though?
I mean, who knows?
At this point,
I didn't necessarily expect Chicago to win last night because they've been such an up and down team for the past 2 years with what they've had. So I mean, it was really kind of up in the air what was going to happen there. And if not for DeMar DeRozan's daughter, they probably wouldn't have won because nobody misses that many free throws usually.
No.
And the Raptors were pretty abysmal.
We've got a short montage. I was saving it for later on in the episode. If you want to, unless you want to go ahead and play it now.
Particular game, if he steps the wrong way or something.
Visit to Florida State. Asked him, what did you? Patrick said, I was down for whatever Coach Hamilton. Underrated passer, doing a nice job.
In terms of the total number or the quality of shots, I'm comfortable.
Tell me, life is really good for him right now. He's in a good headspace coming in.
Guy who the handle is maybe not as tight.
A 20-point advantage.
This guy thinks he can do more offensive.
The third and fourth periods. He always showed up to practice in a uniform, a work uniform. He can't. As I said, very much still the way he hangs in the air.
Check out if you're Chicago here.
Hey, she went 1 for 2, like the Raptors. Loose ball. Levine comes out of the pack with it.
Check out.
Oh, wow. Line drive, never made it. Make sure they secure the defensive board here if it comes off. It does, and they do. Vucevic with the rebound, fouled by Scotty Barnes.
It's twice as funny watching it back.
Oh man,
I know I would lose my mind in the game because I know that would probably mess me up. I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say most of those were not in the process of actually shooting. Like they'd already started to release, and then she screams. It's like, what can you do?
Yeah, it just kind of you don't usually hear that. It's not a high school game. People don't do that anymore. Honestly, if that picked up and like people were screaming and like doing crazy things, like even people try to distract behind the goal or whatever for people to miss free throws, whatever. And every 36 screams, 18 forced missed free throws. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, people behind the deal or whatever be waving their hands and everything.
Yeah.
Trying to be distractions, trying to be loud and stuff. But it's nothing to everything else being kind of subtle and kind of calm, and then a little girl screeching right as you're getting your hand up to flick your wrist with the basketball.
Yeah.
It's just, I bet it scares some people. And I know some of those last free throws that like Siakam was shooting, like right as he was like turning his wrist, the squeal started. So like you gotta almost kind of it'll throw you off. You'll think too much, and like a perfect free throw will be in front of the rim, like what you see. But it's hilarious to see that, and even more so amazing that they were actually just bonkering those things, just missing all of them legitimately.
So the NBA has kind of introduced a couple things here with the play-in tournament. They're going to that in-season tournament as part of the new CBA. Obviously, we won't necessarily talk about that as much. That's probably what we'll end up saving for our season preview next year is kind of the differences from this year to next year. But that's one thing, and we'll talk about this and something else in comparison. In wanting to be more like the college game, that's something that you'd see more at the college game is like that many missed free throws and the crowd really, at least in this case it being DeRozan's daughter, but the crowd really wreaking havoc and playing a factor in it. You just don't see that often at the professional level enough, that it would make a difference like that.
Man, funny enough, I think you're gonna see this happen in the next two play-in games. that that it's gone viral now. So I mean, like all the
Yeah,
little girls or little kids around the world done seen it. I mean, if you got a rich parent or an NBA player dad, and you're sitting courtside, you could be the next little DeRozan who goes
yeah,
viral and
DeAr DeRozan.
makes a whole bunch of people miss free throws. So who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? But that may be the disadvantage to the Chicago Bulls now coming in to face Miami. They ain't got DeRozan's daughter. She's
I
got
was
got
just
school.
about I was just about to say she was able to sweet talk her way into missing school for the game on Wednesday, but I don't believe she's going to be able to do that on Friday and for the game in Miami.
Yeah, she ain't gonna make it out for that one. She ain't gonna
But
make it out for that one.
anyway, getting back to what we were talking about with those 7-8 matchups, it was not something that we expected the Atlanta Hawks to go in there and win. I know you saw that Shaq and Chuck had a $1 billion bet that Chuck has to pay out to Shaq now because he said put any number on it, like $1 billion, that the Heat were going to beat the Hawks.
I don't know if they were serious on that one. I feel like they might have been, but it didn't seem like okay, yeah, a billion. All right. And I
I
don't
mean,
remember if Shaq
I don't
like
think
came
Shaq
back and was like, "Where's my money?"
he I think he kind of poked at him a bit with it, but I
Yeah,
don't think they were serious because I don't think Shaq thought that Atlanta was going to win
yeah,
that game
like 'cause
either.
you hear billion, but like ain't nobody being serious about $1 billion. Like
Yeah,
nobody's that sure about, especially a random
yeah,
NBA basketball team. No.
yeah. I was about to
If-
say unless you're trying to buy the Washington Commanders, who has a spare $1 billion around
oh
for a
good.
sporting thing?
Yeah, man. Hey, at least they're finally getting sold. But
Yeah.
yeah, the matchups and one I really wanted to dive to was the Lakers and the Timberwolves, one of the first ones that went on
Mhm. This was the
because
one that felt like a college game, and especially in that fourth quarter,
oh
the
yeah,
scoring drought that Minnesota was on, it felt like De'Aaron Fox would have turned this game off in disgust and be like, "What kind of basketball is this? This is a mockery of the sport."
horrendous.
Oh
But
man,
it was a man, it was one of those bad good games or those good
yeah,
bad games, whichever way you want to flip it. It's just one of those
yeah,
that like ended up having a lot of good things within it, but like it was bad too. So if you
yeah,
watch it, anybody that saw it, you know what we're talking about. But a lot of players showed up in that game, but somebody that didn't really show up is Anthony Edwards. He had a pretty rough going of it against the Lakers. He's gotten a lot of flack on Twitter and on the media just in general. He had a pretty rough night. Didn't really get anything going. 3 for 17 shooting from the field and just 9 points. The type of scorer that Anthony Edwards is. Didn't
yeah,
even reach digits in this playing matchup here. T Wolves were without Rudy Gobert for the matchup and a couple of other players, but
yeah.
we're still
Anderson,
very much in it through the entirety of the game here, but
yeah,
couldn't really get any help from
they were
Ant
leading by double digits
offensively.
in that game. Like this
Yeah,
is like you talk about a team that has definitely like underperformed compared to where we thought they might be. I think you were pretty spot on with them. I went back and looked at some of our preseason predictions. We'll probably be looking back at that in a future video here pretty soon. But um, I went back and looked and we were kind of lower on the T Wolves even with the acquisition of Gobert, but
yep.
still had them kind of riding around in this range. Um, it just they blew, I believe, their 11th or 12th game this season that they had a double digit lead in. That's by far the most by any team in the NBA. And the thing I have to ask, in overtime with a chance to tie there and possibly send the game to into double overtime. Conley's going out to the right corner for the tie breaking shot or for the potential game tying shot, but they kick it to Torian Prince, who had a pretty good game. But why is Torian Prince taking that shot over Mike Conley when you know you need a three?
Yeah, I get he had a decent game from three. Most of that
Yeah,
is, some of that is from LeBron leaving him just absolutely wide open,
yeah,
and
4 of 7.
yeah, and we hope you knock those down. And I know at least two of those were wide open. So I mean, you take a 2 for 5 actually right there. That's just saying the rest of those weren't completely wide open. Just assuming.
Yeah,
And 40% isn't bad or anything, but that's probably one of those outlier nights from Torian Prince. Shooting pretty well from
yeah,
three. But just in moments like that are really kind of deciding part of your season and put you either in the playoffs already or still fighting for it. You want to go for guys that can really knock it. Heck, I might have even had Ant shoot the shot, as opposed to Torian Prince.
yeah.
Prince was open, and you want the best look. But if you could have gotten something to Conley, maybe do that instead. I
I
don't remember the rest of the play, but
I
I
think they
remember Torian had a good shot. He just didn't
Yeah,
knock it
he
down.
had a good look. Conley was getting open in the corner, but I also think they went too quick. I think if you are
Oh yeah,
Minnesota, I know you've got the fast break, but you're going to want to, instead of trying to give the Lakers another shot at the win potentially, you want to take that down, and even if you just get a two and then you have to foul again, you need points. You get a steal, you're not going to be able to do that again. This is a team we're talking about that had 9 points with in the fourth quarter with a second to go, and luckily got it to overtime because Anthony Davis closed out and fouled Mike Conley on a three, and Conley barely snuck in the first free throw and then made the last two, just to get it to that extra session. But I don't understand, at least in that instance. There was a discrepancy with how many free throw attempts the Lakers were getting. They got into the bonus really early in that fourth quarter, Drew. I think it was like with 9 or 10 minutes left, they were already in the bonus, and Minnesota didn't shoot a free throw in the second half until those three that Conley hit with a tenth of a second to go.
mm,
Yeah,
wow,
it was gross.
yeah, and it's kind of sickening that last second foul on Anthony Davis. Like in
It's
that
the right
moment,
call.
man, it is by the book. Like he did bump him a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's like, is it enough to blow the whistle? Like the shot
Well,
was already
so
off. He landed. I
so
don't
here's
know.
the thing. So we talked about this with the Super Bowl. We saw this in the NCAA tournament as well with that Creighton San Diego State game, where these are the right calls, by the book. I wouldn't begin to tell you how they were calling, throughout that game. Although they were everything, not everything, but more so the Lakers were able to draw fouls in that second half than the Timberwolves were. So I don't really have a good baseline compared to what the other two were. It's a right call by the book, but in that game they hadn't been calling those. This one it
Yeah.
feels a little bit differently because I think they had been, and since that's the right call, and it did feel a little bit more like it was a not slanted, if you will, but there were more calls that were drawn by the Lakers than by the Wolves in that game.
I would have hated to be the official in position having to make the call. I would have
Oh yeah,
not minded being one of the others that like, oh, when you want to go look at this, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, that was the right call alongside
yeah,
him. But like making it in the moment, I'd be like, I'd be hesitant on my whistle maybe. But I
yeah,
totally agree. And Anthony Davis was the more so one in the wrong by just closing out a little too far, and like you can't make contact in a moment like that on a clear
yeah.
three.
Yeah, that's
So
what they say is don't foul, especially not in the process of shooting.
yeah, man. Like if he makes a crazy three, like that the one that created Luca Magic in Portland, something
Hmm.
like that, falling away, he
You
deserved to
just
make
got to
it.
tip your cap.
Yeah, and you just like you go play overtime. There's nothing you can do about that crazy stuff that goes, over the corner of the backboard and you just goes in. You don't know how.
Yeah.
Or Kawhi like shots,
Hmm.
to
The
take his
four
team to the
bounces.
finals back in 19. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, things like that happen. You just gotta let that. You gotta let them let that fly. I mean, if you can contest it without fouling, do it. But if it's too close, then you just gotta let it. You just gotta let them let it fly.
Yeah. I don't
Because
agree.
they're already
I agree.
running out of bounds anyway. And we've only seen like pretty much two of its kind doing things like that for threes,
Yeah.
and it's Luca and Kawhi over the last like 5 years. So
Yeah. And even
you know,
Kawhi's, I thought was a two. I know it was in
was
that
it a
same
two? I don't
corner, but I
remember.
thought his foot was inside the perimeter.
I can't remember. Probably. but
Wait,
it
it's
was
it's
really
been
close.
it's been like 4 or 5 years now, obviously,
Yeah,
since that
yeah,
happened.
and if you could point to another one that was a baseline running and falling away out of bounds like that, you only people that would come to mind, Kobe, and maybe a
Mhm.
D Wade, just because that's his kind of spot over there. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, it was ridiculous there. But I'm surprised Anthony Edwards was a no show. Had a pretty good season and continues to get better as a player. It was just one of those nights. Maybe he's going to turn up in this second game, but I was surprised to see him kind of not show up to the game. It's not like he wasn't trying. He was definitely putting forth effort on both ends of the
yeah.
floor. It just was one of those nights that stuff wasn't going down. Like in one of those drive
Every,
layups to the rack, it looked Kyrie-esque. It just had a little too much English on it and bounced off,
yeah.
off the backboard of the
Everybody from
rim.
Minnesota was struggling in that second half to get points. It was like they put a
Yeah,
lid on it, and Minnesota couldn't figure out how to open up the pudding cup and put the spoon in or something. It was just I don't think I've seen an NBA team struggle like that with good looks. I mean, there weren't. I mean, there
yeah,
were some contested shots, but they did have good looks, and they just couldn't make them. I just
yeah.
that's so it's tough, but like you said, I mean, the benefit of being in that 7-8 game, if you win, you're automatically in. But if you lose, you're not officially eliminated. You get another chance at it.
Yeah. And one of the play-in games that we hadn't really talked a whole bunch about right now is that Pelicans Thunder one.
That was a really good game
Where
too.
the position the Mavs should have been in if they had not tanked at the last second.
I,
But we won't get into the Mavs
I was gonna
today.
say we could talk about that. That's another
Another time,
conversation.
another time.
Yeah,
But yeah, the OKC Thunder, in a position to make the playoffs when, you got this, probably the youngest team in the league, and one of their top draft pick is not even with
yeah,
them right now. It's just SGA and a bunch of dudes.
yeah,
One that's in competition for rookie of the year. He won't get it because
yeah,
Paolo's going to get it, but
yeah.
um,
Fantastic year from him.
fantastic. And the team's just kind of making things happen, and they're working. Everything's blending right. SGA is an All NBA level player. I mean, it's really kind of surprising to see OKC in this position and to overcome the Pels, even though they're down to Zion. They still had a lot of weapons.
Yeah, and they
Bi
still
was
won
out
that
there. He
game.
had a good game. McCollum, on the team, he made some crucial mistakes late, but Valanciunas as well. They have some guys that, they can get it done, and they had a decent bench, but the drop off without Zion is pretty crazy because they were flirting in the top four of the Western Conference when he was healthy and having his good season earlier in the year. But as soon as he, had been gone with injury, this team was just not the same anymore. And he was out there warming up in pregame looking like he looked all right, but had
Yeah.
interviews was like,
Well,
I don't think I'm
I've
100%, so I'm not
I
gonna
was
go
gonna
out
say
there.
I've got this quote here from him. Said physically I'm fine now. It's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I understand the magnitude of these games coming up, and I don't want to be out there hesitating or doing something that may affect my team in a bad way. But I'll counter with it's the playoffs, and
Yeah, I
if
think
you
he
not
needs.
playing is a team is affecting your team in a negative way, Zion.
Yeah, I
I
think.
know that he doesn't want to play unless he feels 100% like himself. I can appreciate that, but at this point, this is why we saw LeBron seemingly come back from an injury that should have kept him out from the rest of the year, and help the Lakers. Maybe not as much as he normally has had to in the past, but he's definitely helped them to get to where they are now.
Well,
Um,
I want to jump in here because LeBron. It's almost an unfair comparison to throw LeBron versus
oh, I
anybody
know.
else.
I'm
His
not.
health is otherworldly, like $1 million a year on his body. So that
Yeah,
doesn't surprise me that he came
no.
back and is doing what he's doing. And what also doesn't surprise me though is it's about Zion. It's just he's being true to his brand right now. I mean, Zion,
Yeah,
he did this last year in the
yeah,
play-in when he was hurt, and I mean, um, I don't know if he was at the level to playing in the way that he was probably this year, but I'm pretty sure he warmed up last year in that play-in and was doing dunks. It looked all too familiar.
yeah.
So it's just
Unfortunately,
another one
the
of those years that Zion, I guess, just seems like he really has to be at least 90% maybe, or 95, or
yeah,
100 to want to go back out there
yeah,
because during the pregame warmups, like maybe a step slow or just a little bit slower than 100%, but like
Yeah.
he looked like he could help the team. He looked like he could have helped them win. I understand them, not wanting to get out there in case of re-injury or whatever, but like the quote said, he said he feels fine. I mean, if you feel fine, you should be playing.
I
If you
agree.
feel if you feel pain or you feel hurt, then I understand. But if you said I feel fine, you should have been on that court playing and helping your team. And I got to bash down on Zion here as a Duke Blue Devil fan. Like, come on, man, get it together. Get your butt out there and play. Your Duke teammate. Well, I mean, y'all didn't play together, but your Duke alumni there, Bi's out there busting his butt. You go out there and give him what, 15 points to Zion? That's a dub, or
Yeah.
even be a distraction, frankly.
If
You
you even
know?
get 10 in that game, that's a Pelican dub.
Yeah, and I
I
mean,
so they're not going to be able to go on the run like they did last year, make it to that eighth and final spot, and give Phoenix really a run for their money. But give credit to Oklahoma City because
oh yeah,
not just Oklahoma City but Chicago. These are the first we saw. Nobody had won as a 10 seed in the play-in tournament before last night, and then both 10 seeds go on the road and do it in the same night with Chicago winning in Toronto and OKC winning in New Orleans, and that was a great game with the Thunder and the Pelicans. And you like you said, you just got to tip your cap because nobody expected the Thunder to be in this position where they're now a win away with all the young talent that they've got and all the picks that they still have remaining on the table that they are going to be cashing in on because of trades of Chris Paul and Paul George and all that going back to the 2019-2018 seasons. This is a good team that is going to get it figured out, and they're going to be a dangerous bunch here the next few years for sure.
yeah. And last but not least, on the NBA side of things, B, just want to see what your thoughts are on these play-in statistics. We're multiple years into the play-in now. We've seen the product. We see that people like it. It works. I was skeptical about it and whatnot, but
I'm
it's
still
working. People
skeptical about it.
people like it. I'm still skeptical, of course, but I mean,
Yeah.
people are liking it. There's hype around it. The games have been good. The NBA just doesn't have a reason to get rid of it, so they won't. But
Well, I think if anybody is going to give them a reason to get rid of it, it's Mark Cuban and the Mavericks, who actively did not want to be a part of it and would rather
I
have.
thought we were gonna save that.
We are. We're not going to go in depth about it. I'm just make that as a
Yeah.
point. But yeah, I've liked it so far. I mean, you saw Zach Levine's great performance that we got a clip from as well that we can show. But I wanted you didn't get a chance to ask your question, I guess.
Yeah, I was just, kind of mentioning, well, I don't even know if it's necessarily a question now, but um, the play-in stats, like what are you going to do with them? We're a couple of years in, and that also maybe puts on the back burner for the possibility for the NBA to actually scrap it because they're still viewing it as kind of a test.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why they haven't created a definitive system for recording the numbers for those games. Because I feel like there should be something now because they won't count them as playoff stats, and I mean it's not the regular season,
Yeah,
but it doesn't even get put as its own statistic. There's
I
box
was
scores and everything, but
I was
you
just
can't
thinking,
go online and search play-in tournament from last year,
yeah.
probably.
I was gonna say I don't think it should be its own thing, but if you want this to be a part of the playoffs without actually being playoffs the 1 through 8, then it's got to count for players' postseason career statistics. It's not a regular season game. It does help with the seeding of the playoffs, but I mean, if you want this to be a legitimate thing and keep it going for years to come, it's got to be, it's got to be counted as such.
I don't know what their kind of trial was, how long they plan to do the play-in before they decide whether they're going to keep it or not. I imagine they're keeping this data somewhere stashed. So, like,
Yeah,
if they do, they'll be like, okay,
they
here's
can
from 2021,
retroactively.
2022, yeah, and 2023. So,
I don't think
yeah,
they're getting
they could
rid of it.
incorporate. I
I
think if anything, you're going to have to create play-in stats, and then they keep it forever, or it's going to get
Yeah.
scrapped in a year or two. Which
Well,
I feel like if you got to decide on it after this year, because we're what three years in of the play-in.
yeah,
Um, so I feel like you gotta make a decision now because there's a bunch of these stats right now from all these little games that you're not doing anything with You're not making them playoffs. You're not making them regular season, and they don't have a definitive system for themselves. You either
Yeah.
got to keep that play-in and give them a system, or scrap the play-in. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think they're going to. We can talk about this. The only reason that we have this is because of Phoenix and the run they went on in the bubble, nearly making it into the postseason, in the 2020 bubble part
Yeah,
of the season. Um, without not for that, and seeing how a team that was so far back when the season paused nearly make a run into the playoffs in that bubble atmosphere, I don't think we'd have this, and I really don't think that we really needed it, but I think they're going to double down on it with the in-season
yep,
tournament coming in next year. They want more and more aspects of that. I don't know if that's the right move, but I really don't think that they're going to get rid of it. So I think at this point you've just got to go in and retroactively count it towards these players' postseason careers, or like you said, add it as its own separate entity. Although with it being, you've got what, 5 games total, 6 games total each year for the play-in, with so
six,
the two, yeah,
be
6
six.
games.
Um, yeah, I think they got to double down on it. I think you definitely need to just go all in with it, especially because I think there's a real possibility of one of these 10 seeds making it into the playoffs, and if that happens, then it's like, oh well, all the more reason to keep the play in, so teams like
Hmm.
that can keep having a chance to make it in, and
Yeah.
then especially more so if one of them has a first round upset. I mean, I don't see
Hmm.
the 10 seed that makes the 8 seed upsetting one of the ones. I mean,
Yeah.
Minnesota as an 8 seed versus Denver. I mean, that might be a little bit more fun than
Then Oklahoma
Jokic
City.
Jokic would like it to be.
Yeah.
Um, but
Although Jokic versus Giddy could be fun. It
but
makes
I
me giddy to think about. No, I
and
joke.
and I,
Sorry.
and I definitely think the Lakers possibility is the most enticing thing for the league, because if they get out of the first round, I mean, like, that's already a reason to keep the playoffs, and they have a
But
genuine chance of making
but
a run to the finals too if they
here's
stay
the
healthy.
thing though. Here's the thing though, Drew. The Lakers would have been in the postseason already before, without the play-in tournament and under the old system. The only teams that this is going to benefit, if they go on a run. I mean, obviously you had Atlanta, who would have been in as well, but they would have had a different matchup as opposed to getting Boston. It's really only going to benefit like New Orleans last year if they had beaten Phoenix, Oklahoma City, or Chicago this year. It's punishing the Clippers from last year. It would
I
punish
think they're
the
taking it year by year though, and they're not comparing it to the prior formats or like the old seasons. Like, whatever they can use recently to keep them going about it. That's why I'm saying, like, the more success the Lakers have right now, it's more reason to keep the play in. And
yeah,
same thing for as if a 10 seed makes it, or even gives a 1 seed run for their money once they make it.
yeah,
That's reason even this year alone. Because I mean, if you compare it against last season, you won't have many scenarios to where you could use all that to give you more reason to keep the play in.
yeah,
So, but who knows? I think it's here
yeah,
for at least right now, and some waves from this year's play-in and playoffs will make it even stay longer. But
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for BJ's best now.
Well, I do have something I wanted to play as part of the NBA talk, but I'll move it over to BJ's best and add to what I had already there. So, like I said earlier, we were talking about some preseason predictions. I
Oh
went back
yeah.
and I want to, I don't want to upset anybody, but I thought this was too
Oh no.
funny to not share as probably the thing that we were most wrong about in the preseason prediction
Mm.
back in well, I guess you'd go back to October of the 2022 season, because this was before the NBA season started. So here we go, and I think we'll probably agree on this one. Just missing out, number 11, just outside the playoff bubble, Sacramento.
Yep, same one right
Yeah,
there with you.
unfortunately for the Kings, it's not going to end just quite yet, but they're getting better. They're getting better. They're getting there. It's just, I mean, who are you going to pick against in the last 10 teams here? You know,
The Grizzlies.
yeah,
The Grizzlies, I don't think they'll be as surprisingly good as they were last year. I mean, they won so many games without their star. It just didn't make sense. Um, I don't know if that consistency will stay there because Clippers coming back, that full unit. Warriors are still there. Nuggets get Jamal Murray back. Mavericks are still Mavericks and things like that, and other teams. So I think the Grizzlies might be at the bottom of that totem pole because all those other teams, basically veteran teams, and then the
Yeah.
Grizzlies pop out. And unless they are that team, they would have to become like kind of how the Warriors seem to overnight and be those guys to move
Yeah.
way up my totem pole.
Yeah,
But
I, I,
that's
I, I think that's very fair. I had the Grizzlies also at 7. I think they're going to regress just
yeah.
a bit. I don't think they're going to be number 2, just because when you got as many teams that we're going to talk about here in the top 6 that are looking the part and everything like that. It's tough to think that, yeah, they can absolutely be competitive and they can be a playoff team, but they're not going to be number 2 again. They're just
Right.
not. It's going to be very tough for them to get back to that high. Oh man! So apologies to Sacramento and Memphis. We really blew it there.
Pretty
Not
tough.
only did Sacramento not miss the postseason for the first time since 06-07, they're the 3 seed, and Memphis was not the 7 seed in the play-in tournament. They were the 2 seed again.
Well, I at least had some recovery on my end because I was like, if they do that, then they're that team.
I
So
know
basically, I'm saying that
if they did it again.
they're
They
going to beat the
really,
Lakers.
yeah, they really molded themselves into that next kind of that Golden State level. Now the next step is to get past the second round, try to make it to a conference finals or even the NBA finals, like the Warriors were able to do when Steph and Iggy and Clay and Draymond won that first title back in 2015.
But if they lose to the Lakers, they're fakers.
I'm I know we're not necessarily going to talk about it as much. I thought maybe we might want to, but I think the Lakers. The more and more I look into that, I think the Lakers could pull that series off. I
I think
really
they
do.
could. I think
I
they
really
could.
think they could. That's going to be a fun watch for sure. I'm excited for that. But anyway, so BJ's best. Obviously, I always like to poke fun at myself. But one thing that I wanted to say as part of BJ's best, and it's great timing because this just wrapped up, and I can go ahead and say it. For the first time since 1987, we have an MLB team that has tied a major league
Oh
record
man,
with 13 straight wins to start the season. The
freaking
Tampa Bay
Rays!
Rays, yeah, have not only have they won every game so far, they're 13-0 now. They have won all but 2 by 4 or more runs. That's the
Man,
so they had started the streak with 9 in a row before they uh, won a 1-0 game on Monday night. Um, but yeah, this ties the longest season opening winning streak of all time. It was the 9 in a row to start the season was the second longest winning streak at any point during a season by 4 or more runs. It tied it second most in MLB history. They're just playing really good baseball right now, Drew. And with the let's see, that was a 9-3 win today over Boston. I had that pulled up watching that. It's a new longest winning streak ever by the Rays. They won 12 in a row back in 2004, but they tie the 82 Atlanta Braves and the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers for the longest season opening winning streak in MLB's modern era at 13-0. So this is just, they nothing went according to plan today for the Rays, Drew. They lost their starter in the third or the fourth inning, but they still were able to rally with 7 runs in the fifth to get the victory. I saw you put your finger up.
yes. Did those teams win the World Series?
So the 82 Braves and the 87 Brewers, I don't believe they did.
Hmm.
I'm going to double check on that. But let's see here.
I was just
19,
wondering if it was one of those stats like, oh, these two teams that happen to go undefeated to start the season 12-0 or whatever, went on to win the World Series that year.
So the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers ended up finishing third in their division with a record of 91-71. So they got off to a great start, but weren't able to capitalize on it. And the 1982 Braves, Drew, as I look real quick, they finished with a record of 89-73. They didn't make the postseason. That was a first place finish in the NL West, but they lost in the NLCS, the National League Championship Series, to the St. Louis Cardinals. So one of the two teams did make the postseason and was a series away from getting to the World Series, but the other one did not even make the postseason. So I think this Tampa Bay team, they've got a tough schedule coming up here with Toronto on the road this weekend. Later on in the month of April, they've got series with the Chicago White Sox and the Houston Astros. So obviously nobody's thinking about the possibility of 162-0, but you've got to give credit where credit's due in this Tampa Bay team accomplishing something that had only been done twice before with their win today, at making it 13 straight wins to start the season.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And
So,
it's funny that only one of the teams that had done that before made the playoffs. So this is toss whether this team's going to buckle in the middle of the season and not win as many games as they probably should.
So another just wild stat for the Rays so far this year. They have only trailed. I'm going to make sure I get this for sure here. They have only trailed coming into today in 5 of their first 108 innings. They made that 6 today before they took the lead in the bottom of the 5th inning with a 7 spot and well on their way to a win. So you add in a +6 to their run differential, and they are +71 ahead of all their opponents, which didn't include today, but their +65 run differential in the first 12 games of the season is the 3rd best in Major League Baseball history.
Oh, so it's the third out of those other two teams.
The run differential. I don't know if those first two,
Hey, it still means something.
The 82 Braves had a better run differential, but it is interesting to see how long this streak can go for the Tampa Bay Rays, because go ahead.
Are the Rays the team with that rookie that's had that hitting streak too?
No, that's the St. Louis Cardinals. You're talking about Walker, right? Luis Walker, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's doing pretty good too, but he's not on this this team for Tampa. But they've gotten really good pitching, and it's just been really interesting to watch because before the season I had Tampa Bay as a playoff team out of the major leagues, but I wouldn't have expected this start to the season. I don't think anybody really would have. They're playing kind of like at a video game level right now that we've only seen 2 other teams all time match.
Is it almost to the level of unexpected of what you saw from the Mariners last year?
No, because I had the Mariners making the postseason because of how close they were in 2021. Now, when they came out of almost seemingly nowhere in 2021, it almost kind of matches that. But Tampa Bay, has been consistently the past few years a threat in the playoffs. They were, in the American League Championship Series in 2021. I know they made the World Series in 2020 in the pandemic season that was all played at Globe Life Field in Arlington, where the Dodgers ended up winning that championship. But this was only this was a team that I expected to, be behind both Toronto and New York in the American League East, but still be a playoff team. So they've gotten off to a fantastic start, and I'm really curious as to see how long they can go. If they win tomorrow against the Blue Jays, new MLB record for the longest winning streak to open a season.
Nice.
Yeah. So they are certainly playing at a level that is good enough to call BJ's best this week, Drew.
Indeed. Impressive.
Absolutely.
I like it.
You know what else you like? I like this shirt I'm wearing from our friends over at T Public.
I like it
Repping the
too.
merch, repping the merch.
I like it too, BJ, and I gotta get a new one because I told you I accidentally ruined mine.
Yeah,
So
I heard you say that.
I'm gonna be in the market for an order for a new Lowdown shirt. So
I saw they might be having a sale, or they had a sale recently. I don't know if I missed it.
they did have it recently. It was while we were gone. It was during this past week. No
Hmm.
sale online right now for T Public, unfortunately. But ladies and gentlemen, no worries. You can get the gift of free shipping instead. So T Public's always got something for you. If it's not on sale, we got free shipping for you. So free shipping on all orders that are $80 or more, which it doesn't take too much to get that once you get a few things in stockpile, or if you're buying for the whole fam.
Yeah,
Visit the link in our description and get your Lowdown merch today.
yeah, that's right, Drew. And with the NBA, NHL playoffs are set to begin, there's only one place to go if you want to get official playoff merchandise. That's over at our friends at Fanatics. You still got time if you're a fan of the men's basketball team, Yukon Huskies, or those LSU women, repping the national championship merch. They've still got time. Baseball season's underway. Adley Rushman crushing a walk-off home run. Maybe you want to get some Baltimore Orioles gear, or this weekend, Drew, 76th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. I was looking at the Fanatics website earlier today and saw some really sweet gear that I was thinking of ordering in honor of Jackie Robinson this weekend. I've got a Jackie shirt that I'll probably be repping on Saturday when I am I'm going to be at Globe Life Field, in fact, on Saturday. So I think that is going to have to be something that I put on underneath my work shirt. So, uh, NFL draft's a couple weeks away. You can get the same hats that those prospects are going to be wearing on draft night. And whether, of course, like I said, if you're getting some playoff merch, you're rocking with the Lake Show, repping the Bucks, maybe those Dallas Stars primed for a deep run themselves, Fanatics is the only place to get officially licensed merchandise. Right now, you can get free shipping on orders over $24 by using the promo code 24SHIP at checkout. Of course, that is US only. So, Drew, Fanatics.com, officially licensed everything. That's the best place you can go to find your team's gear. And Drew, I really hope what's on your mind is copping some championship gear, but I'll ask you, what's on your mind this week?
Hey, what's on Drew's mind, ladies and gentlemen? It's tough because there was a lot of things, and the one I was actually going to have for this, I forgot. But for this segment today, what's on Drew's mind is music that brings up memories.
Yeah.
And BJ, we all have those songs that bring up memories, whether they're good, bad, or just something you don't normally think of until you hear that. That's
Mm-hmm.
a memory, whether it's an event, a birthday, whatever. Everybody has those songs, and there are some songs that will bring up a memory, the same type of memory for everybody.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see if some of these songs rang true to you, which I hope these aren't too loud, and I also hope that you can hear them.
All
Uh,
right.
I'm gonna
I was
play
gonna
a
say,
couple of songs, and then I'll continue with what's on Drew's mind.
okay.
As this ad goes by, because I don't have YouTube Premium.
I was gonna say I can't even hear the ad, so
Yeah, cool.
but I was gonna say if you had asked me beforehand, we could have popped this in here backstage, and we could have.
I know.
It's all good.
I'll see if I can skip ahead a little bit. Can you hear it?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Well, I lost it.
What about now?
Yeah, I think it cuts out when you stop talking, though, but I don't know for
Oh
sure.
man.
But I can hear it. I just can't understand what it is. Is it the
Man.
Arms of the Angel song?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
could hear that part.
Sorry, I was
No.
trying to get to the part to just play that, because
Yeah.
most people don't remember the lyrics, but they hear the arms of the angel part. So
Yeah.
when you hear in the arms of the angel, where do you usually hear that
You,
song?
you hear that with the Sarah McLachlan commercial with all the animals that are like they're cold or whatnot. The ones that are for ASPCA, I think. At least that's what
Okay.
I always think of.
Okay, so there's two things that you can think of initially when you hear this song. That Sarah McLachlan commercial
Yeah,
and being at a funeral. You usually hear this song
I
at
have not heard
funerals.
this at a funeral before, but
Really? Oh
no,
man, I've heard this at so many. So
man.
many. Give the arm
But
to
I
the
mean, it makes
angel.
sense
Yeah.
with the way that with the Sarah McLachlan commercial. It's almost like,
Yeah.
please help before these animals
Oh yeah,
die.
they get you
Yeah,
so sad, and they always
yeah,
happen at like 6 a.m. or whatever in those
yeah.
commercials. Well, and there's another one. I don't know if you can hear this, which I guess maybe I should have just popped it in the
it's
StreamYard
all good.
thing, but
It's
we'll
all good.
see if this is loud enough to where you can hear it. I'm trying.
The Monday Night Football theme.
Yes, yes. This is another one of those things that sports fans that
Mhm.
and when you hear it, like, oh, oh, Monday Night Football, oh, NFL football, everybody's
Yeah,
thinking that, and just
that's
because,
iconic. That's something that a friend and I were talking about just the other day. Is like, what the best iconic like song. When you hear Round Ball Rock, of course you're going to think of basketball. Like, even though NBC hasn't had basketball coverage in decades now, you hear that.
hmm
It's basketball, man. That's a
oh yeah,
basketball song.
yeah, and just where I'm going with this, and those two, songs, like we think of Monday Night Football, and then we think of a funeral or the Sarah McLachlan commercial.
Yeah.
Because I've just had a lot of songs that I've listened to lately, and some over the past year that have either either bring up memories for me or end up getting memories attached to them, whether
Mhm.
it be good or bad. And some of
Yeah.
those, I have both good and bad. Um, and it stinks because, like, some of those, like, I have bad memories with good songs, and
Mhm.
it's just like, dang, like, this is a really good album, but like it's such bad memories that come flooding through like some bad memories come through my head when I listen to it. So, like, when I left my old job, and like the things that went down with that and how stressful that was for me,
Mhm.
when I got there, Wetzel, he came out with a new album at the beginning of September called Hell Paso,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed Cole Wetzel's music. I dance or whatever. And then this album came out, and I was listening to it all the time at work. Just to that's what I like to do when the new album comes out, so the songs or whatever. So I
Yeah.
was jamming it all the time. Every day, putting it mostly in rotation. Sometimes I would switch to something else if I had listened to it like a bajillion times,
Mhm.
just to switch something up for just a brief second. But that album was stuck in my head out there. And, every time I was on the golf cart going out to take pictures or whatever, I was listening to that still too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I was listening to it the other day, and and I've done this multiple times with this album before, just because, like, I like to listen to it, but as soon as I listen to it, I'm like, dang, it just reminds me of being out at the old job, and on the course, and some of the bad memories that come with it. Not all the
Yeah.
specific memories come up, but the place at where I was when I used to listen to the song, that's
Mhm.
a memory that always pops up. Um, and some old songs that I listened to in my freshman year of college that, like, I no longer listen to anymore, but like if I hear it again, I'm like, oh man, that's that song from that one night when we was going behind the apartment doing all kinds of whatever. It's
Yeah.
literally like Sleeping with Sirens, If You Can't Hang. That's one of the songs that I've heard recently that popped back up because I was in a car full of some of my friends. We were doing X knows what, and just one of my friends was a drummer, and he knew how to play that song, like, on drums. So every time it would come on, he would go with the little beat, and like I used to try and do it with him in the car, or whatever. So just cool memory right there coming with it. Just a mixed bag of what you could get with songs that bring up certain memories, or like if you were at the ballpark and you heard a super cool song that happened just before a player hit a grand slam or something, and that's the only grand slam you've ever seen, and that's the only reason you remember that song, whatever,
Yeah.
things like that, memories pop up in your mind, and
I was just saying
kind of stay.
there's a couple that I can think of.
Okay.
I was doing a broadcast just last week, in fact, and the venue I was at played "Crank That" by Soldier Boy, and I
Hey,
immediately I was like, when did it become 2007 or something like that? Like
yeah,
it flashed back to middle school days when that really was out and popping, as the kids like to say.
yeah,
Um, and then there, it's not one to me, but what you're describing, there is actually a song about it. It's an older
really.
song. I want to say it's either Linda Ronstadt or Olivia Newton-John did a song called "Don't Play B-17" or something like that. It was like, "Please, Mister, Please, don't play B-17." That was his song.
Uh,
That was our song, or something like that.
oh
Talking
yeah,
about the
and that's an
on the
example
old
too.
jukebox.
Yeah, like old couples who had wedding songs or whatever, or
Hmm.
relationships where you called it your
Yeah.
song, and whatever. Anytime that turns on, you hate to hear it. Man, there are actually numerous songs that do stuff like that, talking about that.
When you
Um,
hear a song and you think of a family member that's not with you anymore, like
yeah, and
that
like
that's
that was our jam, and you don't listen to it anymore
yeah.
because they're not here or whatever.
Yeah, it's tough for
Um,
me to listen to some of the music that I like, just because I think of my granddad, and
yeah,
obviously, he's been gone now for over a year, but it doesn't make it, even with the time passing and hearing the song, it starts to, you don't lose the memory, but it starts to become, more of a sweet memory, as opposed to one that still hurts. It
yeah.
does hurt, but it is, you think back on good times rather than how everything ended. So
Yeah, and a couple of more songs that ring to me when I hear them. One that I absolutely hated the first time that I heard it, and I wanted it turned off immediately, but slowly came to like it because it was played all the time at little parties that I went to, because I have country little friends that like this song.
mhm.
And so I just hear it all the time. And I learned how to dance in college, so I went and I was dancing to it, and hear it at parties and stuff. It just ends up getting ingrained in your head, and then you got friends that love it and end up singing it with them. For God's sake, the song that you used to absolutely hate and want turned off immediately, you sing and dance to it. What's going on here? And that's Wagon Wheel, either
Oh
version,
yeah,
the original one,
rock
Oak
me,
Grove
mama,
Medicine
like a
Show,
wagon wheel.
or the Darius Rucker, which only certain types of people like to hate on the Darius Rucker version. We won't point out who those are, but they know who they are. But yeah, so that's one of those that I used to want to just never hear any part of, and then next thing you know, years later, I'm arm in arm with a couple of friends. Rock me,
Hey,
mama,
mama,
like
like
a.
a wagon
And I
wheel.
just I think of those times where we were arm in arm and shouting it, and also the time when I initially hated it the first time I heard it, I was like, "What is this absolute? I don't even know what to
Travesty.
call it." Yes, like what are you playing in this car as you take me this place?
Oh
And
man.
another song, lastly, is "Dreams and Nightmares." It reminds me of the times partying at Commerce. I didn't do a ton at Commerce, but when I popped out, I popped out. But like it just when it came on at the function, it was just hold up, wait a minute, and just so many people would get crunk to it at the same time. I just remember being in just crowds of people, just like that. I have no idea absolutely who you are, but we're spitting bar for bar, dreams and nightmares, like. And it's such a cool vibe, and it happens anytime it happens at some type of function and that song comes on, because it's just a hype song in general. And if you used to do it like back in its early days or in your college days, you end up try to turn up like the same way that you used to back then and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it just reminds me of those fun times we used to hold up, wait a minute, y'all thought I was finished. When I bought that Aston Martin, y'all thought it was finished. Just going crazy at parties. It was just fun times. So I appreciate. That's another thing that makes me appreciate music so much, is that memories can attach to it, and
Both
not just
good and
songs that,
yeah.
yeah, and not just songs that you can turn on Apple, or like a theme song from ESPN. For me, since I was in band, I get the extra advantage of having additional music memories, and these just being
Yeah.
for my musical experiences, just being in college and what it brings, playing in college band, and memories marching on the field as a high schooler, making
Hmm.
it to area and things like that, and winning
Yeah.
sweepstakes, and music's got a lot of memories tied to me. So I
Even
just think
now,
it's
I haven't been in choir. Obviously this we don't want to speak the number of years that we've been out of school now, Drew, because that's not a nice number that we want to talk about. But even now, it's been that many years, and every once in a while, a song that we sung in choir will just pop in my head, and it's like, how in the world did I think of that out of all the songs that I've ever heard? Why am I thinking of this song in particular? So,
Yeah.
because I didn't like it back then, I still don't like it now.
Right. So I just think, just for what's on Drew's mind today, just wanted to pretty much share how incredible music is and all the
Yeah,
memories that can attach to it throughout your life. And whether you just remember it day to day or it randomly comes on wherever you're at and you're like, oh my God, is that? Whatever. And it brings
yeah,
up the memories. So just shouting out music and everything surrounding it and the memories that come with it that are good and bad and make us both better or teach us lessons. That's what's
absolutely.
on Drew's mind today.
I love it, man. I think one more for old time's sake. Rock me, mama, like a
Like a
wagon
wagon wheel. No,
wheel.
I can't do it anymore.
Well,
Hold up,
it's
wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? When I put that SMR, y'all thought it was ready? Yeah.
oh my goodness. Well, we weren't rocked necessarily by the top of the WNBA draft board. No surprise with Aaliyah Boston, who we figured ever since pretty much last season ended with South Carolina on top of the college basketball world. Dawn Staley winning her second national championship, and of course, with Ryan Howard going to last year's draft and started looking ahead to this year, it was pretty obvious that Aaliyah Boston was going to be number one taken overall. And then when we found out that the Indiana Fever defied the odds and won the lottery, we put two and two together, and it was a match made in heaven for Aaliyah Boston and the Indiana Fever. We talk about the WNBA draft that took place on Monday night. And Drew, I mean, Diamond Miller, Aaliyah Boston, the first two picks didn't really surprise me. Maddie Siegrist, I think you called this on Monday morning. You said Maddie Siegrist, future Dallas Wing, and sure enough, with the third overall selection, she would indeed become a Dallas Wing. I saw her mocked at either 3 or 5, but both times to Dallas. I'm glad they didn't give anybody the chance to snatch her off the board at 4 in between their picks at 3 and 5, but that didn't end up mattering, Drew, because the Wings trade back in and get that fourth overall selection, which ended up becoming Stephanie Soares from Iowa State. So they went 3 picks back to back to back on Monday night. That was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened before, and Dallas has never traded in the midst of the draft. So it's very interesting to see, and just their picks in general was a little bit interesting, especially to add a center, with that trade for Stephanie Soares from Iowa State, to add a
Mm,
center to an already pretty crowded painted area with your bigs for Dallas already. So I didn't think center was going to be even something that was thought about for the the Dallas Wings in this draft.
yeah,
Coming into it, and what they've said, they needed shooting and defense, which they did, and they do. They added some shooting in the offseason with the player from overseas. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's apparently a sniper, and I still thought they were going to go for it in the draft because I mean, and I knew Maddie Segrist was going to be a Dallas Wings player. I mean, you got one of the most dynamic scorers in there
mm,
that's going to be available.
you got
They
to
got
take
Enrique at
advantage.
5. I mean, Maddie Segrist the same big volume score, putting up 29 a game. I mean, you're looking for scoring, you're looking for shooting. I mean, and you don't want to risk it not being there. Go ahead and get her a 3. And she
Yeah,
also has family ties to Greg. Like their dads are best friends, or like went to college together. They're definitely good friends because I saw that, and the history with that, and that's I know it's a good partial reason why you take Maddie, and maybe why they went ahead and went with her at 3 instead of trying to do it at 4 with the pick trade, or at
yeah,
5 when they could have, because they had rapport and just uh,
yeah,
family recognition already. So that's probably why Maddie went 3. I think she was going to be a Dallas Wing anyway,
Yeah.
But I think that's why she went 3 instead of
Yeah.
at 4 in the midst of the trade or at 5.
But
But
you talk about a Queer, if I said that even remotely
yes,
correct.
that
Okay,
is
I
correct.
thought so. Um, but yeah, so not just that, but Suarez, who's coming off that ACL tear and won't be available most, if not all, of this season, so she's not going to count as part of this
Yeah.
roster. But is this
Even
something?
even as storage though, BJ. I mean, we have a lot of bigs, and
Mhm.
it's just it's kind of I don't know what's gonna happen there, just because like we've drafted these players over the years, and then Bella Hallery was away for a year, then ended up quitting. Who knows what's gonna happen with Suarez? Am I saying that's gonna happen there? No, not necessarily, but you've already got a pretty sizable uh, a room of bigs here, unless it's just you just let the world know there that you don't have faith in Charlie Collier anymore,
Yeah.
and she won't be on your roster, and you'll more than likely keep Kalani Brown until Suarez gets healthy the next year.
Hmm.
Who
But
knows? Maybe
this.
that's part of the plan. I don't know what they're going to shuffle down there, but I mean they've obviously got an idea of what they want to do with it. And then Lou Lopez, Chanel,
Mhm.
if I'm even saying that right.
Yeah, I think
Coming in
so.
with getting a guard. I understand, we need guard depth, but you figured you would if there was a defensive player or more point guardy like a Haley Jones, you
Hmm.
would have gotten them instead of a scorer like Lou Lopez,
Yeah, you were talking about
Chanel.
wanting to get Jordan Horston, were you not?
Yeah, it's Jordan Horston was on my radar, and yeah, she's the type of defensive, player that I'm mentioning right there, and she
Yeah.
was projected to be one of the picks for Dallas, at either 3 or 5, and especially bringing that defensive presence, as a guard, her and VB defensive guards back there would be pretty nice. Horston's going to get to thrive in Seattle though, so I mean, big shots to her. But
Yeah.
we thought we would have dived more into defense. It looks like it's mostly just shooting here with the selections here, and I completely understand the Maddie pick. I mean, I think she'll
Hmm.
be handy in the role you give her to just either be one of your best bench scorers
Hmm.
or a get ready to shoot some corner threes and knock them down all the time, girl,
Yeah.
because the role is not going to be big no matter what it is, unless she just destroys camp. Which, I mean, who knows? She might,
She
because the
might. Yeah.
way she scores. But the team needs some perimeter defense, and their best defender out there is VB. There's the talk that Diamond is an improved defender, which she is. I just think some more help out there, because I mean, if her and VB are off the floor, I mean, where's your perimeter defense?
Yeah.
I just worry about that around there. And Greg had said he doesn't believe that he thinks that uh, all these players that they drafted are capable defenders. Capable defender is a pretty loose term.
Hmm.
You didn't say they're a good defender. You didn't say they're a solid defender. You didn't
Yeah.
say they were a great defender. So I mean,
It's
at
it's not.
best, they're all average. At
Yeah, I was
best.
gonna say that the focus was not defensively for the Wings for sure. But I do want to point out, I don't know if you saw this, but out of the 4 first round draft picks, which includes at 11 Abby Myers from Maryland, Suarez was given the highest grade and the third highest of the class out of any prospect that was taken in that first round at a 96 overall grade. So really good value even with the injury, getting that trade, and they must really like what they've seen from her. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given up the first rounder next year and the second the year after that for her.
Oh yeah, they're banking on the future long term development of her, and
Hmm.
I get it. It's just like, what pieces are you willing to shuffle to see if she's going to be a good WNBA player or not? Because
Yeah.
what are you going to be able to afford? Once that time comes when she comes back. Because next year it's just going to be like, okay, let's see what you got year, and then if she's good, then you got to see if it continues to develop, because not everybody continues after a good
One good
first
year.
year.
Yeah.
So like, just an example, and if she hears this, she's just gonna add this more to her list to not like me. Crystal Dangerfield had the Rookie of the Year in 2020, and then has had some trouble kind of being on a roster, finding a landing spot staying places and kind of being the version that she was in rookie year, who knows if that's going to happen to a Suarez at six
Yeah.
six with that size and that in the shooting ability to be able to stretch the floor. Maybe she'll be super dynamic. Uh, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the Wings, the season pieces together for them, and
Yeah.
what the roles are for the players on this team specifically. Like, is VB going to start at point guard, or is it going to be Diamond and have her come off the bench? Do they plan to sign Saw two to a new contract after this year and her rookie contract's up?
Yeah.
Um, so a
What about
lot of
T?
questions. Yeah, and Big T. I mean, she's back. She did the re-signing, I believe, before the
The draft.
yeah. I mean, definitely before the draft, but months ago.
Yeah.
And they really like her. Greg has always wanted her since she was coming out of Mississippi State, and he's got her. He's probably not gonna let her go. Um, but we'll just see how it all pieces together. Who's left from
Yeah.
camp and things like that. I like some of these players. It's just a matter of, will they kind of end up how some of the other players have in the past, like a Ty Harris who could have been the point guard of the future for this team, but never really got a chance.
Yeah.
And is now in Connecticut, or like Bella Allery, who was a top 7 pick, I believe number 7, and is no longer playing basketball. Played like one good season with the Wings,
Mhm.
took a break and then quit basketball. Chelsea Dungy, who was also a top pick in the lottery for the Dallas Wings, just played the one season and is not even trying to be in the league anymore, just coaching now, I believe at Arkansas. So
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, they have these long-term plans, and I know not everything always goes according to plan, but I just don't want it to fall into a cycle of like these careers for these players not getting to materialize because they're here specifically.
Yeah.
Because over the years, Dallas has just gotten the reputation of becoming a developmental place. Like, you develop here in Dallas, and then you go off and be uh, good somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like, I expect big things from Ty Harris in Connecticut this year. I think she's probably going to look great out there. So I just
Yeah.
don't want the franchise to continue to be a developmental place to where they play a little bit for us. They're all right with us, but by the time they're done with us, they're the best version of themselves, or just way better by the time we send them off, because we either got them too early or what have you. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes, how things shake out, and what the team looks like. I hope they
Yeah.
look good. And not to take away from the rest of this draft. Apologies.
Yeah.
Atlanta Dream had a good draft. Haley Jones at 6 is fantastic,
Mhm.
and then Letitia at 8. So
Yeah.
Atlanta's loading up. They've got a really good squad, and they ended up getting blah 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 Zaya Cook, I believe, right?
I thought it was Zia, but yeah,
Oh, whoops. No, sorry. She went to L.A.
that's right. You're right. Yeah.
Who was the third player that Atlanta got that I liked? I don't remember.
It wasn't in round
Oh,
one. I
Leah
don't believe.
Brown. It was Brown out of Michigan.
Hmm.
So they've got some good depth now surrounding the pieces that they traded for
Yeah.
in the offseason, like Alicia Gray. So, once you sit Gray, or maybe they start Haley Jones. I mean, their point guard, because Erica Wheeler's not there anymore. So I don't know who the point would be starting. So it might be Haley Jones at point. You could be looking at Haley Jones, Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray, Cheyenne Parker, and don't know who the other big would be. But I mean, that's a nice little lineup. And uh, you know, it's funny enough because I saw today that Simone Augustus had picked Atlanta as her championship pick, surprisingly enough. But I want to see Atlanta in the playoffs this year. I think they will be. They barely missed it last
I
year,
I think they will
and
be too.
I think the league's going to be a lot of fun this year. The Fever made good picks, of course, Aaliyah Boston,
Hmm.
and then Grace Berger and company throughout this draft. Taylor Mikesell,
Like so. Yeah.
yep, and then LaDeja Williams
Hmm.
out of LSU. And those are all in the first 17. So a good young developmental squad. They might have a better young group to bring up and develop than the Wings had, as far
Yeah.
as pieces that might could work together better.
Especially with Melissa Smith coming back for her second year, and a lot
Yeah,
of the.
after that AU season, gonna be
Hmm.
pretty good this year. Kelsey
Yeah.
Mitchell
Yeah.
out there, man, pretty dynamic. It was fun to watch her in person. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, a good draft here. There were complaints About the draft show, though, I did not watch the show this time. Just kind of tuned into the pictures that came to my phone and the updates on Twitter as they were posted through the draft. Watching some of my favorite W reporters. Shout out to y'all.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't see anything too out of mind from what I was able to watch,
well,
but
the complaints were like the questions that Holly Rowe was asking,
mm,
the mispronunciations, excuse me, of players' names, um, the way they kind of fast forwarded through the second and third rounds compared to the
well,
first.
I was just say that that tends to happen though with those later rounds, even with other leagues drafts. You don't. It's nearly after the first round. The focus is not nearly as much on who's actually being drafted as much as kind of
I
just
mean, I
talking
get it
about
if you
it.
want to do that just for our third round here, but I mean,
Yeah,
there's usually
there's
a lot
still a
of
lot
pretty
of good
good
players in the
selections,
first
and
two.
there were
Yeah,
players still in the room waiting to be selected for
yeah,
at the early parts of the second round. Um,
I
but
get that.
there was a lot of complaints about how it could have gone down. It was late starting. They were still talking about like NFL stuff and off-season things for the NFL coming in when they could have started the pregame show earlier or the pre-draft show earlier.
Hmm.
I don't know. So, like I said, I didn't watch it, but this is just the things that I'm seeing and reading from W Twitter and the reporters
Yeah,
that are around the league as well. So there's a lot of things that ESPN could always do to fix their product because they don't really give as much of a rip about women's sports and they're not as dedicated to it as they are the men's
as
side of
they
things.
say they want to be, at least, because
Yeah,
I
like
mean you see with the women's basketball tournament they had really good numbers. I hope that that's a sign that hey, people are interested, people want to watch. You should maybe pay more attention to it, but
yeah.
who knows. So big winner and loser of the draft in your opinion, Drew?
Okay, Fever definitely won. Obviously,
Mm,
Aaliyah Boston's the icing on that cake, but they still had a
yeah,
good draft overall. Um, I think the Lynx won as well because of their initial pick
yeah,
with Diamond Miller to go out there and pair with Nafisa Collier.
yeah,
And they also have, I mean, they still need a point guard out there, but Diamond Miller, I mean, you knew she was going to be two this whole time, so
yeah,
6'3" guard out there is going to be able to do a lot of things for Cheryl Reeve and company.
yeah.
Um,
South Carolina having four players taken in the first
oh,
couple
that's a
rounds.
winner. That's a winner
Yeah,
for sure. That's a W. I mean,
which you
Dawn
would
Staley
go ahead.
just can. Dawn
Go
Staley
ahead.
just continues to impress with what she's able to
Yeah.
do out there and the type of player she's able to develop.
Yeah, if you're surprised by South Carolina getting that many picks, you just haven't paid attention really the
Yeah,
past couple of years.
yeah. Let's see. Another winner. I say Dallas won. I mean, they
I
got
think
what they
so too.
needed in terms of shooting, and I think they have enough to do with whatever they need. It'll just stink when it's time to cut players like who we see
It
be cut.
Yeah, it'll be like Hunger Games with all the shooters that said, "May the shots fall ever in your favor."
Right. May they fall in your favor indeed. Camp has been a gauntlet for Dallas Wings players for the past few
Yeah,
years. This year is
obviously, like you
no
said, Atlanta
stranger.
is a winner. Would you consider Seattle a winner with the Jordan Horston pick, or do you think that
I would
that's
say yes and no. Yes, because with one of their few picks, they got a clear W with
mhm,
someone that can develop out there alongside Jewel Lloyd.
yeah,
So that's going to be fun for them. Losers because they didn't get many picks and they lost a lot
yeah,
um, with Stewie leaving town and Sue Bird retiring. So I would
yeah,
consider them a loser. But they had a win within this, if that
yeah,
makes any sense.
yes, yeah,
Um, I would say also that the Mystics probably lost here because they traded away that top pick.
mhm,
Um, but I mean, the Mystics didn't need a whole lot
yeah.
because
They
they're
were
already
looking really good. Yeah,
pretty loaded. And I mean, they went and got somebody at 20, and they got a future pick for next year,
mhm,
or was it 2025? They got future picks in the deals, so it'll benefit them when the upcoming stat class comes through. But they've got a great team already, especially if EDD is healthy. They'll be contending for a championship.
yeah,
Another loser, probably Chicago, just
mhm,
because they didn't have a single first round pick. and they
But that's
didn't
not
get.
what they want. I mean, remember what James Wade said? They
Yeah.
would rather have the dollar as opposed to the 4 quarters.
Well, they can still be considered losers in this scenario.
Yeah.
But I mean, like similar to Seattle with their first pick, they got a good one. Kiana Traylor from Virginia Tech
Hmm.
at guard is going to be solid off of the bench for them. I mean, they're pretty loaded at guard, so who knows what her role is going to be
Yeah.
for this year. So, but I mean, that's a solid player, and it'll definitely work for them as far as depth purposes go to be behind Mabry and Courtney Williams at guard. But
Yeah.
and it's definitely a good place to learn and become a better guard for
Right. Right.
a player in Mabry that's right around the corner from being an all-star and a couple of former ones in Copper and Williams there. So
Yeah.
that'll be good for them. Uh, those are probably it for my my winners and losers on that
Yeah.
side of things.
Yeah.
Did want to address I just mentioned the new media access rules for
Yeah.
2023. Media not allowed back in the locker room. Um, the media this or the WNBA this year intended to include an improved, more efficient post game interview format through which all players must be available to the media, and the
Hmm.
addition of new required elements for pre and game day shoot around,
Yeah.
which players need to be available for now. Um, Recent seasons in person Zoom post game press conferences feature a team's head coach, and key players occurred at the same time as locker room access period for the media. The availability periods will now run consecutively rather than concurrently,
Yeah.
while interviews will no longer take place in the locker rooms beginning with the preseason this year. Following the conclusion of post-game press conference, any players requested by in-person media will be required to be available for interviews either in an interview room, outside the locker room, or in a suitable alternate location arranged by the team.
Yeah. Which
Uh,
makes sense. I mean, I get that there's a lot of media that may not be as happy about the locker room access, but I don't think this is taking away access. It's just taking it out of the locker room.
yeah,
If I'm hearing that right,
yeah, it's mostly just taking it out of the locker room, which
which is fine for privacy purposes.
yeah, it's fine, and that's the main reason. That's mainly what the players wanted, the privacy part of it. I did think it was a cool experience getting to go in the locker rooms the times that I did. Just because that's part of the experience.
Hmm.
That comes with media. So when I went to the Mavs game when Dirk was still a Maverick, I got to go in the locker room and see Dirk's locker and things like that.
Yeah.
If I'm going nowadays, we don't get to breathe near the locker room, which I get
Yeah.
it, but I never would have had those cool experiences had that always been something that's in place. So I'm thankful that I got to experience that both on the NBA and WNBA side. I feel
Yeah.
bad for the youngsters coming up or anybody who's new to media who hasn't gotten to experience. You never probably will get to now.
Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate side of it. But I get it. I mean, just do what the players want. They obviously were always visibly annoyed when you were in there.
Yeah.
They want to be able to shower and do their things as soon as the game is over after the coach's speech or whatever. If they don't have to be available for us, and they don't want to have media just sitting there in the locker room while they have to, dilly dally on their phones just to pass time. And a lot of people don't get asked some stuff anyway. It's usually
Hmm.
just maybe a couple of people in there, especially in locker rooms where media is not as budding as others. So I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Dallas compared to a New York or something.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm fine with it, and I've had my experiences in the locker room already with my interviews. So it's not something that I'm craving or anything like that
Yeah.
at
As
all.
long as long as
But
everybody is available, or there's a designated area for that, as opposed to like taking away access entirely and having no place for it. That'd
yeah,
be more problematic.
yeah, no way they end up doing that. So
Hmm.
um,
What
there'll
about this
be there'll be
coach's
some.
challenge? Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
give me just a second. They'll be uh goodness, what was that? They're going to be buckling down on that this year, and so pretty much if you want a guarantee with one of the players, you just have to request it, and it'll happen
Hmm.
for you, whether it's shoot around, pregame, or post. Says in addition, the NBA or the WNBA is providing more opportunities for media coverage by adding new required elements during pregame and game day shoot around media sessions. Regarding pregame, the joint in-person Zoom sessions that previously featured a team's head coach will now include 2 players. I really like this because
Yeah.
I really like this, and I also don't for some locations, just because lack of media and the pregame stuff. But I think this is good because we get to talk to some players have the option to talk pregame strategy with some players, whereas we didn't really get that until maybe last year. We used to be able to be over at the tunnel and request them before they went inside after shoot around. But now they're going to be at the table all the time for pregame stuff, and I think that's really good. Um, and I hope people are more regular with pregame attendance and not just postgame, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's been times where a Zoom starts where there's like 4 people sitting there and nobody asks anything, and that's some of the part that stinks about some of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
they previously featured a team's head coach. Now they'll have 2 key players. Shoot around media sessions, in addition to access for in-person media, teams will now be required to also have 2 key players available via Zoom. I imagine teams are just going to keep maybe if 2 players were requested, they'll just be like, all right, we'll send y'all to Zoom or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
They'll probably have an efficient system to where they just have somebody that was being talked to already just go ahead and go to Zoom, or
Yeah. Well,
they'll
you can
take
hope.
somebody who's not being talked to and be like, all right, y'all go in there and do Zoom. So
Yeah.
something will be happening like that. And like I said, I'm not tripping about the locker room stuff. That's cool. And we still get our different avenues to be able to have access anyway. And if you still want somebody after a game like that, like I said, they're going to be making a media room or a spot for you to do that for all my media people that
Yeah.
may or may not be watching or listening right now. But yeah, WNBA is getting a coaches challenge. BJ, I'm really happy
Yeah.
about this because I really want to see how it is utilized and if it's utilized properly in
Hmm.
this first year, and and how it goes, because we already have seen how bad officiating has been in the NBA this year. And
Yeah.
there have been complaints over the years of officiating in multiple sports. You get in almost every sport. People don't like umps. People don't like NFL refs, NBA refs, WNBA refs, whatever.
Yeah.
But now, since the WNBA is getting this portion, there's sometimes there's been times where, man, it's like I wish we could challenge it already in the league, just because I feel like we run into the thing with W refs a lot sooner than the NBA refs. And that kind of trails back to when DT told the one ref back in 2020 during the wobble that she'll see her in the lobby, because they had to stay in the same hotel. So
Hmm.
the bad calls against DT, she's like, I'll see you in the lobby. I'll see you in the lobby, in the most DT fashion. But yeah, I think it's great that the coaches challenge is coming in. It
I
says
do.
they'll be allowed to challenge 1 play per game, regardless of whether or not the challenge is successful. They announced back in November. So this is the first time we're kind of really getting to talk about it here, and it was
Yeah.
brought up again by Kathy Engelbert recently ahead of the draft. She likes to do things like that and pop up big news or remind you of things right before an important event or
Yeah.
press conference, dropping news.
Yeah.
Um, and there's another rule change implemented. It's to protect transition play. Per the new transition take foul rule, when a defender fouls a player to stop a fast break, the team that was fouled will be awarded a free throw. Any player can shoot the free throw, and the team will also get
Keep
possession following
possession.
the
Yeah.
attempt. Yeah. In addition, the defender who committed the foul will be issued a personal. Purpose is to facilitate better flow and stop teams from deliberately fouling to
Slow
end a
down the
fast break
game.
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
makes sense. I don't have a problem with either one of those. I think if I guess because it's being introduced, I think I'd like a little bit more to the challenge system. But I like if you have one per half, and if you are successful, then you get to earn a second per half essentially, and then that's the max. If you're not successful, then you lose your challenge. But I get it. Baby steps, gradually introduce it, and then have it, you know, for those late situation moments that you really could use it or need it. So
yes, indeed, I'm ready to see how it goes down and what the first play is that gets challenged, um, what type of play or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great for the league, and I think it'll be used quite often. And yeah, I think it's a good addition here. 40 games, so 40 chances to use a challenge
Yeah.
for
Until
the coaches
and then
this
the
season.
postseason. Yeah.
Yeah, and your postseason. I don't think the rules will change any bit for the postseason. There's no any additional details on that. Challenges will stay the same, I imagine. So
Yeah. They want to
cool.
see how it plays out in the regular season before they
Oh yeah,
expand upon it.
I
Yeah.
think this is gonna stay. I mean, this isn't something I think that's gonna be removed. I think
No.
it'll help the game, and if anything, we want the game a little bit extended for the WNBA because it seems like they go by pretty fast because they don't have near as long. The minutes aren't as long,
Yeah.
and I can't say for halftime, but I know the quarter lengths are
I was to
shorter
say I think halftime shorter too.
possibly, but yeah, you finish a WNBA game and be on your way home in a couple hours, so
Hmm.
that's about how that goes. So
Yeah.
yep, that's the gist of it for the WNBA and NBA topics for today, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen. Quite a bit to run through, as you can see. We're approaching quite a bit of time as
Yeah.
we drift into with it or quit it, where I'm the man behind the questions today,
He's the
ladies and
man.
gentlemen.
He's the man. He's the man.
And I almost forgot about my last question, but I had to put it on here, and I hope I haven't used it before. Oh,
I if you've used it before, I probably wouldn't remember. I'll be honest with
probably
you.
not, because I'm the only one who's kept record of all the questions I've been asking.
I keep my last recent questions. I don't think I
Recent.
have a running tally of everything.
Yeah. Now, it's time to play with it or quit it.
All
I got
right.
5 questions for you, BJ. You know what's up here,
I know how
and
it works.
you just let me know if you're with it or you're gonna quit it, man.
All right. All right. All right. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
with it with this game. Let's play.
cool. Bet. Let's do it. Number one, restaurants will become more popular as fast food prices rise in the U.S. With it or quit it?
So you're talking about basically a sit down restaurant as opposed to
Yes, so
going
you'll
through
see
fast.
more people going to eat restaurants as opposed to picking up fast food or picking up fast food or picking up restaurant food instead of picking up fast food because
So
they're
I was to say,
basically the
so
same price.
are the restaurant prices also raising in this, or are
I
they
haven't
becoming
seen the restaurant prices change much, so I'm saying no.
okay? All right. So if fast food is looking more and more like restaurants, fast food, or price wise at least, I think that more people are going to be inclined to go sit down and eat, or at least get takeout from that place and take it home, which is basically what you're doing with fast food anyway. So yeah, I'm with it. I think that you get a better quality of food and you get about the same price. Why not?
Yeah, because like think about it,
Would you rather
DoorDashing
have
these days.
McDonald's or quality or a steakhouse if you're paying the same? Like I know that
Yeah,
that's kind of a little bit of an exaggeration, but
yeah, and for things like delivery services or something, if you're trying to get fast food, like if you're doing DoorDash, like
yeah,
and you don't have a Dash Pass or whatever, I mean
hmm
like the fees are crazy. Then the
yeah,
delivery charges, you're spending out the wazoo for like a few McChickens, fries, and a sweet tea,
yeah. I was just saying if
compared
you're
to having a real nice meal at Chili's or
yeah
whatever, you know?
if you're if you're going to do that and want it delivered, you might as well just go and save yourself all the delivery fees.
Yeah. Number two. In light of the new coaches challenge in the WNBA, I've got a question for you, BJ.
Ooh, okay.
Cheryl Wait, do you believe that Cheryl Reeve will be the first coach to use the coaches challenge? With it or quit it?
Man, let me look at the schedule real quick because I want to see that opening weekend. Um, I feel, Drew,
Hmm.
that I,
Hmm.
I'm gonna say quit it. I think that they're well,
Okay, it'll be somebody
Minnesota's
else.
gonna have that one of those games on that first day, but I think that in a game like New York and Vegas that opening weekend, which holy cow, talk about a season opening matchup that everybody's eyes should be on. I think that one we could be the first would be the first that we'll see it this in the season, especially
You have
with the stakes being as
you have
much as
this
they would be.
you have the schedule pulled up right now?
I do, yeah.
Okay, kids. So what are the first two games? Are the Lynx the first game or the second game?
The links, it says still TBD on Saturday, May 13th, because it's got the Canada game, but that, that's in between a couple of preseason games. So I don't know. Let me go make sure that this is still the right
Let's see what we got
weekend.
here.
That first weekend, you've got Connecticut, Indiana, the 6 p.m. game on the 19th,
Okay,
at the
so
same time as New York and DC.
Minnesota and the Sky play at 7 on the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm saying like, do they play? What is it? Second now? Is it second?
That would be
I don't know.
third behind
Third.
Connecticut, Indiana, and New York, Washington.
So basically, do you think one of the 4 or 5 other coaches in those other 2 games and the one Cheryl's coaching against will use a challenge before her?
I do.
Okay.
So I'm going to say
All
quit
right.
it.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's going to be the New York, Washington game.
Okay. Number 3. Sweet tea is just better than lemonade. With it or quit it.
Well, I like tea better than lemonade, but I'm one that is not a sweet tea drinker just because of how much sugar is in that. It's not as good for my palate. I don't like to have too sugary of a drink. So I'm going to say with it because, just in general, but I do like both tea and lemonade.
Okay.
So I'll say with it.
Okay. Okay. That was the one that I just kind of put together.
That's fine. I
As
don't
you
know
can
if you've
tell,
asked that before. I don't think you had.
I don't think I have. I think I did ask a lemonade question before. I think it was like pink lemonade versus regular before.
Yeah.
So
That sounds right.
Phew, that was close. Number 4. In the first 40-game season of the WNBA, BJ,
Mm-hmm.
no team will win 30 or more games this season. That's including the powerhouse defending champs Las Vegas Aces, the new super team in New York, and the Washington Mystics. With it or quit it.
So basically, what you're saying is that nobody's going to win 30 or 40. Last year, the best record in the league was 26-10. Both the Aces and the Sky had
Mm-hmm.
that. So if they win each of their 4 remaining games, I mean, Drew, looking back at the standings, I'd be hard pressed to find the last time that a team, if ever, has won 30 games in a season.
Well,
The
you
Lynx
can't don't
Lynx
look
came
at it
close.
like that because we barely had over 30
I
games in the
know, I
past.
know.
So the teams would have to go like 30-4, and that's just
Yeah,
not
I was
happening.
gonna say that the Lynx came close a few years back when they were 28-6 in 2016. But I'm gonna agree. I don't think anybody will get to 30 this year. I think that
Okay.
you might be like a game or two off, like maybe 28-12, 29-11, but
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna hit 30 at least this season. So maybe in the future, but not this year.
Okay. Okay.
I'm with
We
it.
shall see. If I had to put my
We
money
shall
on
see.
anybody, I would say New York.
I think so too. New York or Vegas feels like the 2 most likely.
Yeah, it's safe bets there probably. I just worry about Vegas's health just
Yeah,
because they used
injuries.
like the same 6 players most of the season last year and ran through
No.
to the finals. Will they be able to do that again this year using the same type of depth or not, or will they have to
Yeah.
go deeper in their bench no matter what?
I was to
And
say they
in
added some
turn, they
pieces
would probably
too.
lose. In turn, they would lose more games if they go deeper into their bench, probably.
Yeah, they did add some more pieces to those 6 though,
Yeah,
so you'd expect them to go a little bit deeper.
yeah, they got Candace Parker now, so I'm an Aces fan. Number 5.
Number 5.
Only one top 2 seed will make the conference finals in the NBA playoffs. With it or quit it. Remember your matchups
Only
here.
one. Yeah,
Even
you've
in
got.
even in the first round, Lakers Grizz. Grizz
Mm-hmm.
could go home.
Yeah,
Uh,
the
Hawks
Hawks and the
and
Celtics. Yeah,
Celtics.
I'd
Who
feel a
knows?
lot. I'd feel a lot better about that if Miami had won that game. I knew that Miami would at least take them probably to the brink really close. I think that would be a tough grind.
No faith in Trae Young, Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, and
I
John
I
Collins.
didn't say that. Or in DeJounte Murray. You didn't even mention him. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
say that I have no faith. I just don't know if I got them in a 7-game series as good as Boston's defense has been. I'm going to say quit it because I think both Milwaukee and Boston are going to advance in their series. I feel less confident about the Grizzlies and the Nuggets, even if matchups OKC. I think that the OKC can give them a competitive run. I think that Minnesota's probably get the better chance of knocking off Denver, but I think Denver will probably win against either one of those two teams. I think their real kryptonite that they would have had to worry about would have been the Lakers, and so. Yeah, I'm going to say quit it. I think we'll only see at best, one top 2 seed go down in the first round. I'm
Okay.
looking at Memphis.
It didn't have to be the first round, just before the conference finals.
Well, then you're talking about Boston over, Philly. That Philly has proven that they can't get past Boston. Maybe
Hey,
a Cleveland or New York against Milwaukee. I don't think so.
I don't know, man.
So you're saying only one, basically,
Only
is what you're
one
saying.
out of Nuggets, Grizz, Bucks, and Celtics can make the conference finals.
Well, I have neither in the West, but I have both Boston and Milwaukee in the East. So
Only got them facing each other. Okay.
yeah, I've got Suns and Lakers in the West. By the way,
Okay. All right. Well, that's with it or quit it, PJ.
that is, and that's the show.
It is the show, and we ain't got nothing to remind you about because we already told you about it. Thank goodness, because this is a long one.
I was gonna say this is probably our most lengthy episode in a while, but without a few
Definitely
weeks
in
there,
season
we had to make up for it. So
Yeah, definitely in season 3. I think this is probably the longest. But oh, we do have something to tell you. It's to follow us on social media. Go follow us at _lowdown on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We will be getting better, even better at our social medias. We'll see some. BJ already mentioned it briefly earlier that you might be seeing some clips coming up soon. He mentioned the preseason awards, so be on the lookout for that. Make sure
by
you're
the way,
following us on the account so you don't miss anything.
speaking of before the show started, I meant to tell you, sources are indicating that Mike Brown probably going to win Coach of the Year.
Ooh,
That's not surprising. Congrats to Sacramento.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely got to react to some of our takes that aged well, some that maybe didn't. At some point here, so be on the lookout for that. And who knows, we might be having some more exclusive content potentially in the future as well, Drew. And want to make sure if you are one of our loyal subscribers over on Apple Podcasts that you get maybe some more bonus content coming.
Oh yeah, special bonus episode coming out here pretty soon. So be on the lookout for that. We haven't had a guest in a while, so keep an eye out for the incoming guest and bonus episode. And if you have not subscribed to us before, you get a free trial for a couple of weeks. So even if you don't know whether you want to commit, but you still want to listen to this interview, you can use the free trial. Do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And support the Lowdown. But that's it for us today, ladies and gentlemen. We will catch you next time for another edition of the Lowdown Sports Show. Bada boom, bada bing.